My name is Dr. Vladimir Barayev. I am a general pediatrician specializing in autism spectrum disorder, and in this video, I would like to discuss if dietary changes with regards to wheat and dairy products have any impact on autism symptoms. There are some who have claimed that the symptoms of autism can be alleviated or even cured through a change in the types of food children eat, specifically by removing products such as wheat, which contains gluten, and dairy, which contains casein, from their diets. The reason for this assumption is, as it was explained, that these foods supposedly cause a level of inflammation in the intestines that makes them leaky, and toxins can enter into the blood and then into the brain to cause damage. Now, as a pediatrician, I am often asked if these specific dietary changes can lead to changes in behavior with my patients. And I'm careful by giving a scientific answer from the lens of my professional experience, because many families are understandably looking for safe and effective ways to help their children. But also, as a pediatrician, I did go through the medical literature to give the most accurate answer that I could find. And this video is a summary of what I have found. So based on interventional research trials, neither gluten-free or dairy-free diets have any proven beneficial effects on children with autism in at least the short-term time span of 6 months. There is not enough data to say if these diets are helpful when consumed over a longer period of 1 or 2 years. But based on the short-term data that we have available to us, it's not likely that we will see benefits over the long term. The problem, however, is that these diets can be very restrictive and difficult to sustain and cause children to have social isolation because of food avoidance. If they're the only ones amongst their peers who are avoiding certain foods, then they may be restricted from a lot of peer activities. As more research comes out about these recommendations, we can give clearer guidance to families. But in the meantime, we should all be vigilant and we should all be careful of unproven treatments that do not stand on any scientific basis. You may be surprised to learn that this question has been addressed by medical research from at least 5 interventional research trials, and here is what they found. In 2010, a research study in Denmark, which followed 72 children between the age of 4 to 10 with autism, and they followed these children for over 2 years, keeping track of their symptoms. The study found that after 8 to 12 months on this diet, there were some improvements in social functioning and communication. However, there is a big issue with this study. 30% of the children on the gluten-free and dairy-free diets left the study within the first 12 months. They could not continue on this diet. So the families that felt the diet that wasn't really helping them just stopped it pretty much in this experiment. And what it left the results to be more biased, because in order to demonstrate the experience of the remaining participants, you just diluted your results. So let's give an analogy as to what happened in this trial. The analogy would be that if you have 1,000 people and they all go gambling in Las Vegas for 5 days, and you want to know what are the chances of those 5,000 people over the course of 5 days to win some money. And you have 5 people in that group win. But there's a problem. The people who lost left Las Vegas after the first 2 days. So if you go up to those 5 people and you ask them, so how was your experience in Vegas? 100% of them will say it was great. And you'll be left with the impression that it's a good idea and you're 100% likely to win money every time you go to Las Vegas. And we know that's not true, because the other 995 people who lost money, they didn't necessarily report their experiences into your trial. So you've just diluted the actual results of the reality of what happened there. So if you start out with 1,000 individuals in your research trial. You want to get as close to that total number by the end of the research trial. We never are able to keep a full starting number to completion. However, you want to have the majority of them to ask them exactly what the results of their experiences were. Then in 2002, another research paper from Norway of only 20 children, so it was a small trial, with autism. They were followed for 7 years. Now, parents report data showed improvement in the symptoms of autism, but there once again is a very large caveat. The study relied on parents to report exactly the number and types of symptoms they saw. The issue with that is we know that parental reporting based off of being in a research trial can be skewed. So this is why we have double-blinded research studies. A double-blinded research study means neither the parents nor the researchers know which child is eating which diet. Therefore, they would not be able to color their interpretation of what is happening with a child based on knowing if they are or are not eating a certain diet. So, as an example in the past of how a parent's observation can be changed of their child's behavior in research setting, was another research trial, very famous one, when parents were told that their children were drinking a sugar-free beverage or a beverage with sugar in 2 groups of kids. And then asked the parents, what do you think about their behavior after drinking each drink? And the parents reported that their children became more hyperactive on the sugar beverage hours after drinking it. But there's one problem here. The researchers actually had both beverages without any sugars. And the parents' belief that their children were drinking sugar caused them to report that their children were behaving differently because they believed that they were drinking sugar. So these observations had nothing to do with what the kids actually drank, more so with what the parents were told about what the children drank. So this is the concept of both the placebo effect and the nocebo effect, where a placebo effect, you have a positive effect when you were given a placebo, and a nocebo effect is when you have a negative effect when you're given a placebo. Then, a study from 2006 from the University of Florida Department of Psychiatry. They followed 15 children with autism for 12 weeks. They spent 6 weeks eating wheat and dairy-free diets. Then 6 weeks eating regular diets. The result after the intervention showed no change, no benefit in the symptoms of autism compared with a regular diet. In this study, the parents were not told which diets they were given by researchers. But interestingly enough, so this was a blinded trial, interestingly enough, 6 of the families whose children were eating gluten and dairy said their children had improved language skills, which is the opposite of what was thought to possibly have happened. The hypothesis would have been, oh, we think that staying away from gluten and dairy would help our symptoms. However, 6 of the families said their symptoms got better from eating gluten and casein. Then, in 2016, a double-blinded, randomized control trial at the University of Rochester followed 14 children with autism for 3 months and compared their behaviors and development once exposed to dairy and wheat versus no exposure to dairy and wheat. The study showed no significant differences in behaviors over the 3-month trial. The study was limited because they needed to enroll at least 30 participants to see a statistically significant difference. However, they were only able to capture 14. So if there was any effect from these foods on their behavior, they would have had to enroll more children to see that effect. So in that small group of 14, it was not statistically significant. Another more recent study in 2019 from Poland followed 66 children from the ages of 3 to 5 over 6 months. Half of them were on a gluten-free diet, the other half were on a regular diet. And what did the study find? There was no difference at all in autism testing scores on the children with the gluten-free diet or the children with the standard diet. In this trial, they did not ask parents to report on what the symptoms of their children were. Rather, they underwent objective testing by examiners to see the symptoms of the children. So what is the lesson and key takeaway from these research studies? The reality is that when we design research studies carefully, removing the biased observations, there is no effect at all on the symptoms of autism by removing gluten and dairy from a child's diet from the papers that we have discussed. If you learned something from this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below to help spread the word. For parents living in New York State, call my office at this number to ensure that your struggling child gets the right diagnosis and the help they need now.